Rachel Reeves poll doom. Right, imagine waking up this morning thinking you're having a bad day, then discovering you're Rachel Reeves and realizing things could actually be infinitely worse. Because while you were sipping your morning brew, a poll dropped that basically told the Chancellor her economic strategy has all the popularity of a wet sandwich at a summer picnic. Welcome back to UK Daily Coffee, where we serve up the political chaos faster than you can say fiscal responsibility. I'm your host, and if you're wondering why British business leaders are currently more pessimistic than a Manchester United fan in January, stick around because this one's a proper corker that'll make your morning coffee taste like champagne in comparison to what's brewing in Westminster. The Institute of Directors just released a poll that's essentially the economic equivalent of telling someone their haircut looks interesting, and by interesting, we mean absolutely catastrophic. We're talking about numbers so grim, they make the weather forecast look optimistic. Let's dive straight into this political car crash, shall we? Because when 80% of business leaders are feeling gloomier than a British summer, you know we're in for quite the ride. Picture this, you're Rachel Reeves, sitting in your Chancellor's office, probably thinking you've got this whole economic thing sorted. Maybe you're planning your next big speech about growth and prosperity. Then someone walks in with a piece of paper that essentially says, "Congratulations, you've managed to make business leaders more pessimistic than they were during the absolute chaos of 2016. That's right, we're talking Brexit referendum levels of doom and gloom here. The Institute of Directors poll is like getting a performance review where your boss doesn't even pretend to find something nice to say. A staggering 80% of business leaders are either very or quite pessimistic about the UK economy's prospects for the next year. That's not just bad news, that's maybe we should have stayed in bed levels of catastrophic. But wait, it gets better. And by better, I obviously mean spectacularly worse. Because 85% of these business leaders think government policy will be unsuccessful in driving economic growth. That's like being a chef and having 85% of your customers tell you they'd rather eat cardboard. It's not just criticism, it's a complete rejection of everything you're trying to achieve. Leach, the chief economist at the Institute of Directors, delivered what can only be described as the most polite demolition job in recent memory. She basically said UK business leaders have entered summer with confidence levels lower than a limbo bar at a particularly competitive party. These are the lowest confidence levels since records began in 2016, which means we've managed to out-pessimistic the Brexit vote aftermath. Congratulations, I suppose. Now, here's where it gets properly interesting. The poll shows business optimism has plummeted to -72 in July. To put that in perspective, during the absolute chaos of April 2020, when the world was shutting down faster than pubs on New Year's Day, the optimism level was -69. We've actually managed to be more pessimistic than during a global pandemic. That takes some serious talent for economic mismanagement. Think about that for a moment. During COVID, when nobody knew if they'd have jobs next week, when the entire world economy was playing musical chairs with fewer chairs than players, business leaders were more optimistic than they are right now under Labour's economic stewardship. It's like being told your cooking is worse than airplane food during a turbulence-filled flight over the Atlantic. The poll surveyed 639 business leaders between July 11th and 30th, asking them about their views for the year ahead. These aren't random people off the street moaning about their grocery bills, these are the folks actually running businesses, creating jobs, and trying to keep the economic wheels turning. When they're this pessimistic, it's not just concerning, it's basically a 5-alarm fire with sirens blaring and everyone running for the exits. Export expectations have fallen off a cliff faster than a tourist in flip-flops on a Lake District hiking trail. Revenue expectations are in the gutter, and investment intentions have basically packed their bags and left for sunnier economic climates. Many firms have hit the pause button on hiring and investment decisions like they're binge-watching a particularly addictive Netflix series, except instead of entertainment, they're getting economic uncertainty. The reasons behind this spectacular pessimism read like a greatest hits album of economic anxiety. We've got concerns over tariffs, which are about as popular with businesses as parking tickets. Rising costs are squeezing companies tighter than skinny jeans after Christmas dinner. And then there's the delightful prospect of tax rises in the autumn, hanging over everyone like a sword of Damocles made entirely of HMRC paperwork. Anna Leach didn't pull any punches when she explained what's happening. She pointed out that companies are battling cost increases, particularly from national minimum wage changes and national insurance adjustments. It's like being asked to run a marathon while someone keeps adding weights to your backpack. The government has been remarkably quick to raise costs for businesses but apparently operates on geological timescales when it comes to delivering improvements to the business environment. Here's the particularly delicious irony: while the government talks about driving growth, they've managed to create an environment where business leaders are more cautious than a cat approaching a cucumber. The gap between rhetoric and reality is so wide you could drive a double-decker bus through it sideways. Leach made another fascinating point about last year's budget speculation. The damaging rumors about tax rises leading up to the 2024 budget caused many firms to pause investment and hiring decisions, contributing to 6 months of near-zero economic growth. It's like economic déjà vu, except this time we're living with the consequences of those tax hikes while simultaneously building up to potentially more uncertainty. The ripple effects are spreading through the economy like gossip in a small village. Tax changes have created waves that are still crashing against business shores, and signs of consumer retrenchment suggest that ordinary people are also tightening their belts faster than after a particularly heavy Christmas dinner. Many firms report they're struggling to plan amid what Leach brilliantly described as a cacophony of risk. A cacophony of risk? That's not just economic analysis, that's poetry. It perfectly captures the current business environment where every decision feels like trying to navigate through a maze while blindfolded and someone keeps moving the walls. The Institute of Directors is calling for urgent action. They want the government to quash rumors of further tax rises for business this autumn and accelerate planning reforms and deregulation to restore confidence and drive growth. It's like asking someone to stop hitting you with a stick while simultaneously requesting they help you up off the ground. Of course, the Conservatives couldn't let this opportunity pass without comment. Mel Stride, the Conservative shadow chancellor, told the Financial Times that the poll provides yet more evidence of the damage Labour are inflicting on our economy. It's always refreshing to see politicians capitalising on bad economic news with the enthusiasm of seagulls spotting an unattended fish and chips. But here's what makes this particularly fascinating from a political perspective. Rachel Reeves came into office with big promises about economic growth and prosperity. She positioned herself as the steady hand that would guide Britain's economy to sunlit uplands of success. Instead, she's presiding over confidence levels that make the Brexit aftermath look like a golden age of optimism. The timing couldn't be worse for Labour. They're still in their honeymoon period, supposedly, yet business confidence is already in the basement and showing no signs of wanting to come back upstairs. It's like planning the perfect wedding only to have it rain, the caterer cancel, and the venue double book your big day. What's particularly striking is how quickly sentiment has deteriorated. The optimism level dropped from -53 in June to -72 in July. That's a 19-point plunge in a single month. In economic confidence terms, that's like falling down the stairs while carrying a tray of expensive glassware. The broader implications are genuinely concerning. When business leaders are this pessimistic, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Companies delay investments, postpone hiring, and generally batten down the hatches for the economic storm they see coming. This creates exactly the kind of economic stagnation that makes their pessimism justified. It's a vicious cycle that's harder to break than a New Year's resolution to exercise more. Pessimistic businesses create sluggish economic conditions, which validate their pessimism, which makes them even more cautious, which further slows the economy. Before you know it, you're stuck in an economic doom loop that makes Groundhog Day look like a cheerful romp through temporal mechanics. The government now faces a fascinating challenge. They need to restore business confidence without admitting that their current policies are about as popular as a vegetarian option at a barbecue competition. They need to demonstrate that they can create the conditions for growth while simultaneously dealing with the reality that their track record so far suggests they couldn't organize economic growth in a brewery with unlimited resources and a detailed instruction manual. Rachel Reeves finds herself in the position of needing to convince business leaders that things will improve while those same leaders are currently about as optimistic as England football fans before a penalty shootout. It's not impossible, but it's going to require some serious economic wizardry and probably a few rabbits pulled out of some very deep hats. The next few months will be absolutely crucial. The autumn budget is looming like a thundercloud on the horizon, and speculation about further tax rises is already contributing to the current pessimism. If the government gets this wrong, they risk turning temporary business caution into permanent economic stagnation. What we're witnessing is essentially a confidence crisis masquerading as economic policy. The fundamentals of the UK economy haven't changed overnight, but business sentiment has shifted dramatically. Confidence is like trust, it takes ages to build up and can disappear faster than free drinks at a wedding reception. So there you have it, folks. Rachel Reeves is dealing with business confidence levels that are lower than a snake's belly in a wagon rut, and the autumn budget is approaching like an economic exam she hasn't studied for. The Institute of Directors has basically given her government a report card that would make parents seriously consider homeschooling, and conservative politicians are circling like sharks who've detected blood in the political waters. The big question now is whether Labour can turn this ship around before it hits the economic iceberg that business leaders clearly see approaching. Can they restore confidence, drive growth, and prove that their policies are more than just expensive ways to make businesses nervous? Or are we looking at a government that's managed to achieve the impressive feat of making the post-Brexit economy look like the good old days? If you enjoyed this deep dive into Britain's latest economic drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're UK Daily Coffee, and we'll be here tomorrow with another steaming hot cup of political chaos to start your day right. Because in British politics, there's always another crisis brewing, and we'll be here to serve it up with just the right amount of wit and exactly the wrong amount of optimism about our economic future. What do you think? Can Rachel Reeves turn this confidence crisis around, or are we in for a long winter of economic discontent? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you tomorrow for another dose of political caffeine that's guaranteed to be stronger than whatever's currently propping up business confidence in Britain.